Transformation is a yin and yang of being and doing. Vision without action is just talk, but action without vision gives way to inefficiency and misalignment. Having started as a delivery unit within a previous government administration in Malaysia, PEMANDU Associates is a consulting firm that's no stranger to macro-scale transformation, but also the challenges that come along with its pursuit. In fact, it's these challenges which have informed our very way of doing things. But this is not just limited to governments. Prior to being invited to set up a delivery unit within the government, our founder Idris Jalla had spent his career driving business turnaround at the helm of companies like Shell, where he had spent most of his working years, and eventually at Malaysia Airlines. These achievements, coupled with his government transformation efforts, would later see him named by Bloomberg as one of its top 10 most influential people. So, how does this methodology work? We've distilled the pursuit of big, fast results to a methodology based on our work with governments and businesses in over 26 countries. We call it the 8-step Big Fast Results methodology. This methodology has been proven to deliver results, but don't just take our word for it. These institutions have documented both our approach and its results, while the following have listed PEMANDU Associates as one of the world's most innovative teams in government. Each of these steps is crucial to drive action through all levels of the organization. So, let's unpack it. Step 1. Set the strategic direction. The prerequisite to any transformation is for the leadership of a government or organization to agree on the sharply defined true north. This then defines the key success measures of the government or company, the basis for us to then measure and track performance objectively. So, every engagement starts with a strategic leadership workshop. The objective? To get buy-in from the top, to remove bottlenecks and ensure accountability to deliver as a collective. No man is an island. Transformational results cannot happen in silos. We do this through a strategic leadership workshop. The clearer the goals and measures are defined, the easier it becomes for initiatives to be prioritized to drive big, fast results. The success of the Strategic Leadership Workshop is based on the audacity of the true north. Why? Because we believe that the more audacious the goal, the more we are forced to find unconventional ways of working to achieve it. And we call this the game of the impossible. For government transformation programs, typically this is a 2-day workshop with the top decision makers, i.e. the President, Prime Minister, and Cabinet Ministers, brought together to determine ambitious goals for the country. The Malaysian government faced an arduous challenge where its economic performance was, frankly, at a slump. Fragmented and inefficient ways of working between both the public and private sectors made it very difficult to break out of the middle-income nation trap. Therefore, it was an enormous effort to streamline the government in attitude, motivation, and accountability. However, through the workshop, after many long and deliberative sessions, the government identified 7 national key results areas, 12 national key economic areas, and 6 strategic reform initiatives, all of which would go on to steer the country towards its transformation goals. Step 2. Conduct labs. In the labs, key internal and external stakeholders are brought together to identify detailed initiatives and solutions to achieve the true north, all distilled through robust discussion and testing of ideas. What does this look like? Full-time commitment from lab participants during this period. That means all together in one location. Undivided attention. If it sounds intense, well, it is. But it's vital, because this cultivates proximity to the problems to be solved and all the key stakeholders involved from day 1, and not after day 532. In the labs, the key idea is to bring the best of the best in one room to develop robust initiatives and granular action plans to arrive at the true north. The French writer Voltaire said that no problem can withstand the assault of sustained thinking. Which is why in an ideal scenario, this takes place anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks so that no stone is left unturned. The result? Silos are broken, ownership and buy-in is increased, and there is an acceleration of testing and distilling of best solutions that serve the true north. The output of this lab is what we call a 3-feet implementation plan. You see, plans at 10,000 feet are lofty but fail in the details. But a plan at 3 feet zooms down to action items, milestones, budgets, KPIs at the most granular level, ensuring that everyone knows precisely what steps to take, by whom, and when. Alignment is key, so each of these plans must be endorsed by the leadership team and all lab participants. What happens when the lab is over? At the end of this rigorous lab, our participants return to their respective departments and are assigned key roles to make sure that the plans are then brought into action, and then action into results. In Malaysia, we ran an 8-week lab under the Economic Transformation Program and identified 131 entry point projects to transform the economy. These projects translated to 406 billion in private investments, 3.3 million jobs, and 250 billion US dollars in gross national income. Some of the notable projects that came out of the ETP lab include the largest petrochemical downstream refinery in Pengerang, mass rapid transit, rural roads, water and electricity access projects, crime reduction programs, minimum wage policy, and many others. Meanwhile, in Oman, we conducted a 6-week lab for the 10-feet program and identified 121 projects. These projects contributed 49 billion US dollars in private investments and 119,000 jobs to the economy, which translated to 24 billion US dollars in gross domestic product. These accelerated results would not have been possible if it were not for the cross-collaborative effort during the lab sessions. Step 3. Organize an open day. Open days are a public forum to present the plans to the public as well as its detailed timelines. This allows for feedback but also keeps those driving the implementation accountable. In order to force us into delivering results, the open days are typically highly publicized events that invite members of the public, non-governmental organizations, academicians, and the private sector to understand the output from the labs as well as the media. The open day will communicate output from the labs ranging from the overall objective, its end targets, initiatives, and timelines. Members of the labs will be invited to present the lab outputs as well as answer any questions from those attending, lending additional ownership to these initiatives. Public feedback is then taken into account and, where appropriate, used to modify or even amend some of the initiatives. Tanzania faced a lot of skeptics who were not convinced that the Big Results Now program was going to facilitate systematic implementation or the necessary follow-ups to move the needle. We knew that we had to showcase facts in an open day as a way to communicate transparently. It successfully pulled the attendance of 2,154 visitors from the public, NGOs, academics, and the private sector with positive feedback all around. The then newly appointed Minister of Higher Education had committed to establishing the National Review Committee. Its objective was to do a thorough review of acts and policies within the higher education system that would accelerate the reform of the system to be efficient, contemporary, and technologically advanced in accordance to the Malaysia Education Blueprint 2015 to 2025. But there were several key high-risk areas. First, time. The minister only had 3 months to get buy-in from the wider higher education ecosystem. Then, it was crucial to mitigate potential backlash of some of the more sweeping recommendations made by the NRC. The open day allowed for a healthy feedback loop for technical recommendations and strategies to then be socialized for public awareness and understanding. The event saw an estimated attendance of 2,500 people, where about 97% of attendees had positive experiences and believed in the recommendations put forth by the NRC. Step 4. Publish a roadmap. This is a public-facing document containing the output of the labs, including the targets, initiatives, budgets, timelines, and implementation parties. The roadmap is, if you like, the holy grail that has every committed action on record. With every plan and milestone on paper, this leaves governments and organizations with only one choice: to follow through and deliver. The roadmap also contains a country-level or organization-wide outlook and vision for the transformation program, as well as forwards from the most senior leaders. Step 5. Assign key performance indicators. These measures are assigned to all relevant departments, agencies, divisions, and implementing parties. The KPIs must anchor on the true north, its initiatives, and the implementation plan identified in the lab. They are then cascaded from the top leadership right down to the working team. This ensures that the entire operating machinery is accountable to achieve the same goals and outcomes. For governments, ministers will cascade it down to the permanent secretary, director general, right down to the working team. Typically, in a ministry, the minister and permanent secretary will share the same KPIs under the ministry, which means his or her success depends on the successful implementation of all initiatives by all departments. Similarly, the president or prime minister will carry the aggregated KPIs of all the ministries and agencies. Usually, if a delivery unit is established, the head of the delivery unit should also have some KPIs as the head of government. This means he or she needs to drive implementation for the whole government as an agent of change for the president or prime minister. Step 6. Discipline of action. This is key, and it's what we call the DMS principles. D stands for do it relentlessly. Everything identified in the labs must be implemented by the relevant parties based on the agreed plan in the labs. M is for monitor constantly. Establish a dashboard to track the progress of the initiatives on a weekly basis. Usually, the dashboard also tracks the KPIs of the ministry, department, or agency. S is to solve problems recursively. Delays and bottlenecks must be escalated to the relevant authorities in a structured and systematic manner. If problems are identified through the weekly dashboard and cannot be solved by the working team, it should be escalated to the minister or CEO via the monthly steering committee. If the issue still cannot be solved, it should then be brought up to a problem-solving meeting with the top leaders within a set time frame. Now, from experience, if an issue has to then be escalated to the level of a problem-solving meeting involving a president, prime minister, or even CEO, we often find that 70% of problems are often solved before the meeting. The key here is really for management and working teams to remain agile. If initiatives are no longer effective or relevant, be quick to pivot, as long as you are still heading towards the true north. Step 7. Validate the results externally. Assuming step 1 to 6 are executed flawlessly and have produced outstanding results, is it enough? Well, not yet. Positive results naturally raise the eyebrows of critics and skeptics. And this is not unique simply to governments, but also applicable to private organizations. Which is why validation and verification are vital steps to bring credibility and assurance to all parties of the actual results and its significance. This is usually done through neutral third-party engagements who are able to verify the data objectively. In Malaysia, between 2010 to 2017, the National Transformation Program achieved remarkable results, which include increasing Malaysia's gross national income per capita to $9,660 from $6,700 and narrowing the high income threshold from 33% in 2010 to 20% in 2017. Next was $540 billion in investments realized between 2010 to 2017, with private sector-led investments making up 68% of the share of total investments and growing at a CAGR of 10.5% from 2010 to 2017. Third was the diversification of the economy from its oil dependence from 41% in 2010 to a mere 15% in 2017. Next was the creation of 2.68 million jobs as of the fourth quarter of 2017, where 27.2% were skilled workers. Next was 73 MNCs out of the targeted 100 having established their regional offices or HQs in Kuala Lumpur since 2011. Then there was the 6,868 kilometers of rural roads completed, as well as 2.9 million people benefiting from a minimum wage policy. And finally, 7 million people benefiting from targeted cash assistance programs, what we called the BR1M program. All of these were validated. This confirmed that the results were indeed legitimate and valid. Step 8, the final step, publish an annual report. The last step is to publish a comprehensive report which documents the verified results achieved by the respective parties. This is the final step that cements full accountability and ownership throughout the government or organization. It also gives its stakeholders a bird's-eye view of the overall transformation progress, including the gaps and challenges faced in implementation. The annual report shows the good, the bad, and the ugly. This level of transparency and accountability allows space to build trust between all stakeholders. So there you have it, the 8-step Big Fast Results methodology. It's been proven effective in many countries and organizations, and despite the differences in economies, business environments, cultures, and people behaviors, it has proven to be an effective way of working that instills hyper-collaboration and discipline of action among the people that take part in it. To find out more, do log on to our website at pemandu.org or email us at enquiry@pemandu.org. Here's to playing the game of the impossible, anchored on our being and driven in our doing.